understanding the downs and distance is probably the biggest key to understanding football.
Down and distance, down and distance, down and distance.
What's up, guys? This is Josh back with a little bit of a twist, a new show, Down in Distance. It will be myself, and I will have a co-host. Everyone knows Joe from the B.S.N. What's up, Joe?
Hey, what's going on? I almost laughed in the middle of that because it's ridiculous that this is the third time we're doing this.
Yeah, I'm getting pretty good at the intro, seeing we've had to do it a few times. So we were supposed to have Down in Distance. This really would have been, like the third episode? But some technical difficulties changed that. So this is the first episode. So we'll give you a little rundown on what we plan on doing. It's all football. I mean, we're going to talk NFL. We're going to focus on that today. We're going to give you guys news. To start, we're going to break down teams. Once the season gets in, we'll have the previews, and then we'll recap the games, the past week games, and then we'll throw in some college football in there as well. So right now it's every other week, but once we get closer to the season and into the season, we are going to do a show every week. So you have anything to add, Joe, on that, or does that pretty much sum up what we're trying to do here?
I mean, that pretty much sums it up for the third time. Yeah,
like I said, I know what we're trying to do like the back of my hand now. So what we'll do is we'll get right into the news. One of the biggest ones, and I don't even know really if it's a rule or if it's kind of, I guess technically it is, the new national anthem rule that they implemented, and I kind of put air quotes up there, that players are, if they're going to be on the field, they are to stand. They have the right to stay in the locker room, but if they kneel, sit, anything like that on the field, from my understanding, the team is going to be fine. Is that right?
I think so, and there's some kind of 15-yard penalty rule that's like up to the home team.
I don't. It's so bizarre. It's
How come the NBA doesn't have this problem? I'm pretty sure Adam Silver just. I think Dave actually said it on this week's BS Nerds, but Adam Silver just before the season was just like, yeah, if you kneel, we're going to fine you. Right. And the NBA hasn't had a single person kneel.
Right, and it definitely is a problem. And there's been numerous, different reports and people writing about it saying it's because they're doing this because of ratings. They're doing it because of, lost, endorsements and sponsorships. And, obviously the NFL's a business. They're trying to make money. But, the fact that you have to actually make it, it's become so big that it got to this point. Like, just stand. Like, how long is the national anthem? Not long. If you want to zone out. Like, it's not a big deal.
I think it's come down, like, the whole point of this whole thing has gotten lost. Like, Colin Kaepernick did it as a protest, and now it's being turned into, like, a legit national anthem thing and not a protest thing. Like, I don't think anyone who's kneeling actually has a problem with the national anthem itself. I think they were kneeling for protest, and now, because of when they chose to kneel, it's become a national anthem thing. When it wasn't a national anthem thing. It was a protest thing. Right. It shouldn't be, like, I don't think anyone actually has a problem legit standing for the national anthem. They just were trying to protest something, and now it's gotten all fucked up, and now they're going to just stay in the locker room. Or they're going to come out and stand. I think this will work. I just think it's a bad way to do it.
Yeah, well, it's going to be the same thing as last year. Every single game, we're going to watch the national anthem to see who's not out there, to see if anyone does, take the fine. I just think it's
Why don't they just stop airing it?
So that was that. I thought that last year. Like, you're just adding to the fire. You're adding fuel to the fire if you just don't, I guess, televise the national anthem, which they never did before.
Yeah, just don't televise it.
No one would care.
No, I wouldn't care.
I mean, we got to the point end of the season last year. I mean, I'm sure there were still guys kneeling and sitting. After week 6, I was like, I really don't. I turned the TV on at like 1:10. I knew kickoff was about to go on because we were going to get through all the malarkey. Like, I didn't care. But I definitely think it'll work. It has to.
Also, why don't they just not televise? They should just... The NFL should just be like, listen, I don't care if you kneel. Come out and kneel. And then have so that they look good to their players, and then have a private conversation with all of their media partners and say, do not show these guys kneeling or talk about it. Just don't do it. So ESPN, NBC, Fox, or CBS and Fox, just don't talk about it, don't mention it, and the camera never pans to those guys. And then, sure, Twitter might light up and tell you who's kneeling, but, you know, the Midwestern audience or the audience that they were losing from the people kneeling aren't on Twitter looking up who fucking kneeled. They're just watching TV. Right. That way you make the players happy and no one sees it.
It's just, like I said, it's just turned into a whole charade, even though, like, I'm not arguing that there was a reason behind it. You know, I like you said, they're not protesting the military. They're not protesting against the flag. They're not, you know, it's not like that. They had a purpose. They did what they needed to do, and then it just carried on. It got out of control. So the rule had to be implemented, and hopefully this is the last we hear of it until someone decides they're going to kneel, and then they'll get fined, and then everyone will be kneeling again and protest to that. That's just how I feel it's going to go.
But the thing is, if someone kneels, like they tried to nip it in the butt, but if someone kneels now, like, it's going to be an even bigger story. Like, this guy cost his team money and he still knelt, and now it's going to be like this huge story.
Right.
That this guy broke the new rule. If they just stop showing it, eventually everyone would stop kneeling because they're not showing you kneel.
That is valid.
Why are you kneeling if no one's seeing it? The people in the arena see it, that's it.
Right. So, it'll be interesting to see probably for the first week or two. And then as long as everyone plays by the rules, I think it's just going to be a non-factor. No one's going to really talk about it. It's just going to go away.
I will never care enough to stop watching the NFL.
No, I mean, no one's going to care if
there are people who care.
There are.
A lot. My grandfather said, he posted a thing on Facebook that he's not going to watch the NFL this season. I think he's not telling 100% the truth because he's a diehard Lions fan. I can't imagine him not watching the Lions. But He said he's not going to. I will never get butthurt enough to stop watching the NFL.
Right. Like, I don't care about the kneeling, but it's not going to prevent me from watching the game.
Yeah.
Because once kickoff starts, like, there isn't even a thought not even in the back of my mind about them kneeling for the national anthem.
No, I never even think about it.
Right.
Like you said, after like week 6 when the story kind of like died down, I never thought about kneeling again.
Right. It never, not even, and when Kaepernick gets brought up, he's, being boycotted and everything because he was kneeling, I was like, maybe he's just not a good quarterback.
I think it's people always say like it's either because he's not a good quarterback or it's because he's kneeling, and the real like reason is kind of in the middle somewhere. Like he's an okay quarterback that's not worth that, like the media attention.
Right. If it were if he were the caliber of Aaron Rodgers,
no, he would be on a team.
He would be on a team.
No one would care.
Right.
He could kneel in the middle of the game. He would be on a team.
You're right. He's just not worth the trouble. He's not.
Yeah, and he's not as bad as everyone says, but he's definitely not good.
No, he's not.
He could be a backup quarterback. He is better than some of these teams' backup quarterbacks. He could be a backup quarterback in the NFL.
I agree.
But he's not. But why go through that for a backup?
Right. But would you go as far as saying he's one of the 32 best?
I don't know. Not with this new crop of rookies. Who's the worst quarterback in the league right now, you think?
Man, I don't know.
A.J. McCarron, probably. And he might lose his job.
Right.
So.
And AJ's not great, but he's not going to...
And you're not going to play him over a rookie, because there's so much upside with a rookie that even if the rookie is technically worse, you're going to at least see what the rookie has.
Right, you invested a lot into that guy.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't think he's better than... Yeah, I don't know if I would call him one of the top 32.
Right.
Where does he get a job?
Right. And that's the other thing. When, for the longest time, he wanted to be a starter. Like, that's where I think backup, I understand they don't want to go through that trouble, but just the fact that he's like, no, like, I want to start. Like, I don't want to sit on the bench. I think that raised a lot of red flags for teams like, listen, he wants to be a starter. Who knows if he's going to cause more problems other than that, kneeling. It's really not worth it because he's not going to be a starter.
There are a couple places he would make like really good sense as a backup, like Houston, Carolina, Seattle. Teams that have a mobile quarterback as their starter,
right,
he would make sense as a backup. Like, he's a perfect fit as a backup in Seattle or in Carolina, where he can run pretty much the same offense as Cam Newton.
Well, he met with Seattle.
Yeah, and they turned him down after he said he was going to keep kneeling.
Right.
So, clearly teams don't think he's worth having on the roster, despite, him being a good fit because of this. I don't know if that's considered, like, collusion to keep him out of the league.
Well, it would be, and again, it goes back to his talent level. It would be if he, without a doubt, was good enough to be a starter.
If it would only be collusion to me if you legit had them all on tape or something, right, or like an email chain, agreeing that they weren't going to sign him.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
and you're never going to hear that.
Him being a middle of the road quarterback that comes with a lot of media attention and not getting signed because of that is not collusion. It's just media savvy owners.
And I think this rule's going to hurt him even more. Because now the club's worried about, okay, the media attention, but now we're going to lose money.
And the thing is, he's doing a lot of charity work, like, outside the NFL now.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to come back and kneel.
No.
He can, if instead of kneeling, right, he just came back to the NFL, he told Seattle, listen, I won't kneel, I'll be the backup quarterback, but every time I do a press conference or I'm interviewed by the media, I'm going to wear this t-shirt that plugs all of my charities or
right,
whatever, or raise awareness, and anytime I do a press conference or anything, I'm going to talk about that. So, no, you're getting into that with me, but I won't kneel. I'll stand, but that other stuff's going to happen.
It comes down to a time and place.
And I think he would get signed if that was the case. If he was like, I won't kneel, but I'm going to talk about all of this work I'm doing and raising awareness for what my original intention was.
Right.
I think he would get signed because he's not kneeling during the national anthem.
Right. So, I don't know. We'll see. I have no faith that he's going to be on a team or play in the NFL. I just don't see it happening.
I think Seattle was his best shot.
Right. And it would take, I don't know what it would take. He would have to contact Pete Carroll or the front office and just be like, listen, with the new rule, I don't want to cost the team money. I understand that, there is a time and place for this. I'll use the press conferences, or I'll use my, organizations and charities as my outlet, not on the field. And then he probably would go to Seattle or something like that. But
I'm actually surprised Seattle just didn't sign him anyway, because Washington is a pretty progressive area. And you would get an influx of a certain fan that it supports Kaepernick. Yeah. And I think how many fans they would lose in the Washington area compared to how much support they would gain from the Kaepernick supporters would be almost it would just scrub out.
Right.
At the least, scrub out.
Yeah. That's a good point too. I never thought about it in that sense, how progressive is a good way to put it. Washington, the state is. So, what else we got? So, other news. We'll start with Hunter Henry. Tore his ACL in practice. He's out for the year. It is a terrible injury. It's a terrible thing for a young guy. It's just
adjust those fantasy rankings.
Right. Think about it. That quick in a practice, and the season's done.
That's Teddy Bridgewater, non-contact in a practice, his knee just explodes.
Right.
And he misses 2 years of football.
Right. So he could be, I'm not obviously a Chargers fan or anything like that, but just to get, an injury like that, to see a guy go down, you want to see him, I don't want to say quick recovery because then it could happen again, but a full recovery at a reasonable time. Because if Bridgewater that was a nightmare for that kid.
Yeah, Bridgewater's injury was freakish. It was once in a blue moon kind of freak injury. People threw up.
Yeah. And I just hope for the best for this kid. They had high hopes for him. So
they don't have a tight end.
They
don't have a tight end. Well, they have Virgil Green. They don't have Antonio Gates anymore. He might be re-signed.
Right. So that's tough. Let me ask you this. This is unrelated to that injury, but a player that isn't signed, receiver, I don't think he's going to go to the Chargers, but Des Bryant's still out there.
I really think he's going to end up with the Ravens.
Do you really?
He turned down a contract from them.
I did. Yes, he did.
But I don't know. He's gonna have to take short money somewhere and play.
Well, did you see what Aaron Rodgers said?
No, what did he say?
So I don't know if there was rumors that he was going to go to Green Bay or anything like that, but I'm assuming Aaron Rodgers was just asked, hey.
Oh, Jason Witten started that.
Okay, so Aaron Rodgers was basically asked, hey, what do you think about Des Bryant playing for the Packers? And he was like, I don't know why you would cut Jordy Nelson and bring in Des.
Because they're the same player.
Right. Not saying he doesn't want Des on the team. He said, he's a great player, and if he comes here, obviously, I'll welcome him with open arms. It just doesn't make sense.
He's not wrong. It doesn't make sense.
Right. So
I think he's going to have to sign with the Ravens.
And just he's not going to get the contract he wants.
He's not going to get the contract they even offered him earlier.
Right.
Because now if he goes back and says, listen, I'll play, they're gonna be like, well, now we know that you're like desperate, so play for $100,000, play for whatever we're gonna offer you.
Right. He'll find a team. He'll find a team. I don't know if it's him being stubborn and he's getting more offers than we know about and he's just turning them down, or if teams saw what happened with the Ravens and they're just like, listen, we weren't even going to offer him that, so we're not even going to try.
I think teams see that. Did you know that the Cowboys are on the All or Nothing thing on Amazon?
No.
So Cowboys are the team for All or Nothing, where they like follow them for the season. So it's last season.
Oh yeah.
The last Cowboy season, and Des Bryant does not look good in that show.
I haven't.
He's like disrespectful at talking to his coaches, and he rips his fucking wide receivers coach at one point for talking good about the Broncos corners.
Wow. I mean, does it surprise you though?
No, it doesn't surprise me, but it's not good for the league to be able to see that and have film of it.
Yeah, that was literally the worst time for it to come out.
So that's probably affecting his stock a little too.
Right.
San Francisco could sneaky be a team that is interested in him too.
Right. And
for the right price.
I always thought the Giants, but with Dez and OBJ on the same team, I don't know what's gonna happen. If that happened, like those two cannot be on the same team.
Oh, the Texans actually. The Texans would be a great spot for Des Bryant because he stays in Texas. He plays right in Jerry Jones' backyard pretty much.
Yeah.
And then that team doesn't have the best receiving core. They definitely don't have a red zone threat. Like, I wouldn't consider Nuke Hopkins like a straight up red zone threat. He's not that big.
No.
So he would be a pretty good red zone threat. You could kind of move Will Fuller into the slot as just like a speedster.
Right. Yeah. So, Dez is more physical. He's not a huge guy, but he's definitely more physical.
He's essentially just a red zone guy at this point in his career.
Yeah, at this point. Let's see. The Jets traded Hackenberg to the Raiders for the 7th round pick.
Seems like maybe one of the dumbest moves ever.
I don't want to say pointless, but
it's pointless.
It's pointless.
He's a terrible quarterback.
Right. And I just don't see why would that even come up?
Why wouldn't you try and get Bryce Petty instead?
I don't know if the Raiders...
He at least has starters minutes.
Right. I don't know if the Raiders were just like, hey, maybe they went after Petty and the Jets were just like, well, we want 2 picks. And they were just like, you know what? Give us Hackenberg. We'll give you a 7th. And the Jets were like, thank you for that.
They could have just... The Jets have Darnold, Bridgewater, and the older guy, McCown.
McCown, yeah.
They're not going to keep Petty and Hackenberg.
There's no reason
after training camp.
Right.
So the Raiders could have just waited until they cut him and then signed them.
Yeah, there's no way he was staying on that team.
Yeah. I don't know why they would trade a 7th round pick.
Yeah, that it's definitely a head scratcher. I don't know. I'm really interested to see how the Raiders are going to do, not only this upcoming year, but future years with Gruden now in charge, because he just seems like
he has no idea what he's doing.
Right. He just seems like he was just kind of thrown in there. He's putting a Madden roster together, and he's just going to see what happens.
Hackenberg's really good at running Spider 2Y Banana.
That's got to be it.
Gruden really liked the way he saw him run Spider 2 Y banana.
That's the only time he's ever going to see time.
Yeah. They're going to bring him in specifically just to run Spider 2 Y banana. Derek Carr's going to come off the field, and then Hackenberg's going to go on.
And the defense will never know it's coming.
Yeah, they'll never figure out that he only runs one pass play.
And probably fumbles the ball, or who knows what he does.
And then he just misses the throw. He misses the guy by about 40 yards.
He just throws it away, intentional grounding.
Yeah. Throws it through his own uprights. Just turns around and throws it through his own uprights.
That would be something to see.
He misses the pass like Blue Mountain State style, just like throws it through the fucking through the uprights. Like, oh, sorry, I missed that one, coach.
Right. Like Uncle Rico, just throwing it over the mountains.
Yeah. Not even close. Isn't going to come anywhere close.
The Browns. I think we talked about this a little bit. Browns' report was they tried to trade for Nick Foles. They tried to get. I think they wanted to get him for the 35th pick. Is that what they had? And Foles was like, "Nah, I think I'm good in Philly. I'll stay here." Which. I think that's smart on Foles' part.
I think it's crazy to me that Foles has the kind of clout to just be like, "Nah, I'm good. Like, don't trade me," and right. They won't trade him.
Well, they said that before, like right after the Super Bowl. They're like, "Well, Foles could, this is the market for Foles is going to be through the roof for the guys that don't get Darnold and Rosen and Baker." And everyone just seemed that Foles was really content with being the backup. Like, didn't really care about the starting role. He won a Super Bowl, and it's like he's good. He almost walked away from football, and now he's, led a city that, wanted to win a Super Bowl after they were pretty much left for dead after Wentz went out. And he's like, you know what? I did what I needed to do. I think that's pretty good for my career. I'll just sit in the backup spot now.
Well, he might have the starting role to start the season because Wentz might not be ready to go.
Yeah, I've heard both, though.
He got hurt pretty late, Wentz. I mean, there's only, 4 weeks left in the season?
Yeah. I mean, I heard that his recovery is going well, and he should be ready. I don't know if he'll be... It's going to be tough, though, because I don't know if he's going to be game ready.
That's what I mean. And he runs a lot, and he throws his body out there and shit. Like, it might be
Might work him in a little bit. Give him a couple weeks or so.
It might take a couple weeks, and why you keep Nick Foles around. And it wouldn't shock me if they keep Nick Foles until, the deadline.
Yeah.
And then you see him move.
Just to make sure that Wentz is back to old form. Or...
Especially, someone's quarterback is going to get hurt, and they're going to be like, well, Nick Foles is out there. We'll bring him in, and maybe he can, salvage this season.
Right. The other thing is, I wonder, and give me your opinion on this. If Foles was like, yeah, no, that's fine. I'll definitely go there. Do you think that the 35th pick would have been good enough for Philly to be like, all right, we'll do it? Or are they going to be like, we want a little bit more than that?
I heard after the Super Bowl that to start the conversation with Nick Foles, it had to start with the first round pick.
Okay.
Multiple picks, too. Not just here's the, 15th pick.
Right. So maybe if they tried to get him before, it would have been the 4th and 35th pick they would have. I mean, if Foles would have went for it, that's what Philly would have wanted.
That seems too rich to me.
Extremely.
Yeah.
But I mean, he did have a good run. I completely wrote him off. I did not expect it.
Me either. I think if Philly fans were being honest with you, they didn't expect it either.
Yeah. So, I think I agree with you on they're gonna make sure Wentz is back, and there's no setbacks or anything like that before they deal Foles because, I mean, why get rid of a guy that knows the offense, knows the guys on the team, led the team before? The only thing that really could hurt them is, or really would hurt Foles if he goes out there and just lays an egg.
Yeah, if he plays bad.
But,
which, I mean, we've seen from Nick Foles, too, so.
Right. Which, in the end, it's like, okay, then I'm still the backup. Like,
last season really proved just how terrible of a coach Jeff Fisher is.
Awful.
Nick Foles wins a Super Bowl. Case Keenum, this was like one of the best quarterbacks in the league last year from Minnesota. Jared Goff has like this just looks like the number one pick that like he was, and all three of those guys were former Jeff Fisher quarterbacks who were awful.
But not even awful. Like, how did they miss on this guy? Like, it's clear how bad he is.
Yeah. Jeff Fisher looks so bad.
Right. So
he'll get another job. Some dumb fucking team, like 2 years from now, will give him a job.
Yeah. Someone will. It'll be like the Browns.
And he'll ruin their quarterback too. I hope not, because then Baker'd be fucked.
You know, I really do think that they're not going to make the playoffs. I really do think the Browns are making strides in the right direction.
Would you be? I'm going to throw a number out there. Would you be shocked if the Browns won 8 games or 9 games?
Without looking at their schedule, I would say that would be a successful season. But I don't know if I would be shocked.
Well, you know they play the Bengals twice. I think the Browns are better than the Bengals.
Yeah.
Right now.
Yeah.
If I go position by position, I think the Browns are better than the Bengals.
Yeah.
And then they play the Ravens, who
knows?
Yeah. Do the Ravens really scare you? That defense wasn't very good.
And Flacco's not going to scare me.
Yeah. I would say at worst they're on par with the Ravens.
I would say a comfortable over-under for their win total is probably 5 this year.
I think if that was the line, I would take the over. Like, I wouldn't be shocked.
Because of how bad they have been recently, I think that's probably close to what the line would be. I wouldn't be surprised if they were 1, 6, 7, 8 games though.
I think the current line for their wins is 4.5.
Okay. I haven't even looked at it.
So I think I would take the over at 4.5.
Yeah. I don't see why. If I was looking at the schedule and I could say, I think a lot of games, because they weren't terrible last year. I mean, they were, their record wise, but there were a lot of games where it was like, man, they could win this game, and I think Baker's going to be the guy that kind of gets them over that hump of winning closer games that sometimes they shouldn't be in, but they are at the end.
All right, here's the Cleveland Browns schedule. They play the Steelers to start, so they probably lose that game. Then they play the Saints. That's probably another loss.
Yep.
Then they play the Jets.
That's
a close game.
I'll give them that one.
All right, so 1 and 2. Then they play the Raiders. Honestly, I'm not even joking. That's probably a close game.
Well, yeah. It really depends, on the Raider, like Carr and that offense.
So we'll give them a loss for that though. So they're 1 and 3. Then they play the Ravens.
I'll give it to them.
So 2 and 3. They play the Chargers, which is probably a loss.
Yep.
They actually do have a tough schedule. Holy shit. They play the Buccaneers. Again, who really knows with that team? the
Right.
Buccaneers. You don't know what you're getting. They play the Steelers again. I think they lose the series to the Steelers.
Right.
So
I mean, they play them tough, but Steelers just overall are just better.
They play the Chiefs, which I think the Chiefs are going to be pretty bad this year. Their defense is not good.
They're going to be pretty bad. They're going to be a 6-7 win team, I think.
So we'll give the Browns a win on the Chiefs. So that's 3 wins. They're going to lose to the Falcons. They play the Bengals at home. They at least win 1 versus the Bengals.
Yeah.
The Texans
loss.
Yeah, Panthers loss. Broncos, I'll say loss. They play the Bengals again, and then the Ravens.
So 5 could be on par.
Yeah, 5 seems about right.
If they sweep one of the series against the Ravens or the Bengals, I mean, they're at 6.
They do have a tough schedule, though.
Yeah, they do. Golly.
And that's that's an 0-16 schedule. So
right. Could you imagine if they had that schedule last year?
Yeah.
Not only are they 0-16, but it's like embarrassing.
Yeah.
So, the only other news that I have is Gronk and the Pats are what they call close to a deal. So there's not a lot of details out there. Just some people are saying that he's just going to get a raise for his salary for this year. Some are saying it's going to be a full-on extension. Some saying it's going to be both. I'm not really sure what it's going to be, but they're saying that they're really close to completing the deal, and they're confident that it's going to get done.
Dave, actually, at the time that we're recording this, that podcast hasn't come out, but we just recorded the BS Nerds last night, and Dave said that he thinks by today, Thursday, that Gronk and the Patriots are going to have a rework deal because that meeting that Gronk had with Belichick like a couple weeks ago that his agent was there for,
yeah,
he thinks they kind of reached like a handshake deal then.
Right. Like
now they're probably just ironing out the details now that it's completely legal for them to do it.
Right.
So this isn't shocking at all.
No. What do you think it's going to be, though? Do you think he's going to get an extension? He's going to get more money? He's going to get, less incentive, more of like guaranteed type stuff? What do you think it's going to be?
I think it's going to be similar to the deal he had last year. They're just making it more incentive based.
Okay.
So they're just going to re-give him his incentives again. Kind of.
I wouldn't be surprised if they restructured it and the money that he was supposed to get this year when they restructure the whole contract ends up being guaranteed money for him. I think that would be enough for Brock to be like, all right.
I think, they're just gonna I'm looking at this article. He got paid $10.5 million last year, mainly through
9 or 8 this year, something like that.
Mainly through his incentives, he reached $10 million.
Okay.
And because the way his contract was structured, I'm pretty sure, that $10.5 million got pulled from this year of the contract. So okay. As he hit his incentives, it pulled money away from this year towards the first year. So I think what Gronk wanted was to not get... yeah, for them to not penalize him this year for having a good season last year.
Right.
So he was making less money even though he hit all of his incentives. Like he made a bunch of money last year because he did it, but this year he was getting punished for it. So he was like, hey... how about we fix that? For
the Patriots, that's genius.
Yeah.
You essentially have a incentive-based deal. The player does well, it's front-loaded.
Yeah.
I mean, that's ingenious.
So now he's just doesn't like... But what happens is now you feel super undervalued because you just hit a bunch of incentives and now you're technically getting punished for it the next year.
Right. And I'm not going to say Gronk is dumb, but I have a feeling that his agent was the one that brought that to his attention. Like, hey, buddy, we need to restructure this.
Not only that, but Gronk has leverage too. That most other players be like, "Fuck, I just kind of screwed myself."
Right.
So, but Gronk actually has leverage where he can be like, I don't really need to play football, so I'll just retire. And then the Pats are like, well, you don't have to do that. Just work something out.
Because he has the talent, but he also has the persona and personality to make money elsewhere.
Yeah, he can do other stuff off the field.
He can do anything. Money. He can smash watermelons for all anyone cares, and he'll make $1 million.
Yeah, I'm expecting that deal to get done pretty soon.
All right. So let's get into... So what we're going to do leading up to the season is we're going to break down every division. So I think we worked it out, because we're doing it every other week, by the time we get through these, we'll be really close to preseason. Is that right?
What was that? I'm sorry. I was reading another article.
It's all right. Like, we're not recording or anything.
No.
So,
hey,
if we go every other week, we break down a conference, or a division, I should say. It'll bring us close to, if not into, the preseason. Is that right?
Yep. We're going to, not just the preseason, it's going to bring us right up to the start of the regular season.
Okay. All right. Perfect.
If we do a division, one division a week.
Right.
Or one division an episode, I'm sorry.
Right. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with the AFC East. We're going to start with a division that pretty much has been the Patriots division. They've won, I think, 15 times in the last 17 years? Something ridiculous like that. And not being a total homer here or anything, but it's really hard to say the Patriots aren't the favorite again. And it's not because the Patriots are going to be this almighty team, because the AFC East isn't that great.
Yeah, I don't think it's being a homer at all. I think it's just being realistic that this division is pretty awful.
Yeah, the Patriots came off. They went 13-3 last year, obviously losing in the Super Bowl. But you look at the rest of the records. Buffalo made the playoffs, but they were 9-7. So that just tells you what kind of competition in the AFC there was last year.
And just a little preview. I don't think the Bills come anywhere close to going 9-7.
Okay. Nice. I like that. A little foreshadowing there.
Yeah.
Miami went 6-10, and the Jets went 5-11, which was surprisingly better than I thought they were going to do.
I literally thought the Jets were going to lose every game.
I was really convinced that if they won 2 games, it was a pretty successful season for them.
Yeah, it was. I did not think they were going to do good at all.
Right. So we're going to break down every team, kind of where they stand as of right now, and then do you want to do a projected win-loss record for them, or do you want to wait until we get closer to the season and then break down every team?
No, we'll do a projected win-loss, okay. An early one for each team. Just I think we should go in order from worst team to best team based on what we think they're going to how we think they're going to finish.
Okay. So, worst team, I'm going with the Jets. I think they're going to be the worst team again.
You think so? I think that might be the Dolphins.
So, the reason that I think it's going to be the Jets is, they got better with Darnold, but he has literally no help around him.
And I don't even know if he's going to play right away either.
Right. And that defense is, if we say that they're average, we're being really, really nice.
So, I have in front of me key additions and key losses that they had. So they added Tremaine Johnson at cornerback, which is a good signing. They added Isaiah Crowell, Teddy Bridgewater, Avery Wilson, the linebacker, a defensive tackle, Henry Anderson. They have Terrell Pryor at wide receiver, who had a terrible year last year,
Right.
but a really good year the year before with a much worse team. So who knows what Terrell Pryor you're getting? Another wide receiver, Andre Roberts, who I think came from Oakland. Thomas Rawls, I did not know that they added Thomas Rawls from Seattle, the running back.
Yeah.
Kevin Minter, linebacker, and Kevin Pierre-Louis, outside linebacker. They lost Austin Seferian-Jenkins, their tight end, who had a really good season last year. They lost Demario Davis at linebacker. Big loss of Muhammad Wilkerson at defensive tackle, and they lost Coney Ely. So, I don't know. So their starting corners are Mo Claiborne and Tremaine Johnson. Is actually a pretty good secondary.
So let me throw some stats at you. So last year, and this is strictly scoring offense and defense, they ranked 23rd in both. So they scored 18.6 points per game, and they gave up 23.7 points a game. That's...
All right, yeah, it's not great.
Right, and there's no... Like, yeah, they added pieces, but none of those names are like, all right, that's going to dramatically improve them. And dramatically could be like 2 games. Like, I don't think they're going to win 7 games. They had a really good year last year at 5-11. I don't expect them to. I think a really good year this year is going to be 5-11 for them.
I think it's going to be really close between the Jets and the Dolphins for how bad these teams are.
Yeah, the Dolphins are not good. They're
yeah,
not
I think it's going to be very you might be right. So we'll go with the Jets being last, but the Dolphins are definitely right there.
Yeah. So the one bright spot for the Jets has nothing to do with this season. 2019, they're going to have over $100 million in cap space.
And Sam Darnold.
So 2018 might be rough, but you have a plethora of money to add receivers for him to add to that defense. You're gonna be able to legitimately build for the future and around Sam Darnold. So 2018 might be really rough, but they at least have a future where Miami.
Also, the Jets will be bad enough to be in that top part of the draft,
right?
Where they'll have a pretty good draft pick next year, and this draft class is really good for certain positions that aren't quarterback.
Right.
And since they got their quarterback this year, they can take a best player available approach, and they didn't. They traded up to get Sam Darnold.
Yes.
Well, they traded up to get the 3rd pick, but they didn't give up their 1st round pick next year. So they can still get, a blue chip guy next year in a draft that's stacked with defensive linemen and some really good offensive linemen. They can really go out there and get an impact guy.
Right.
As well as having $100-something million. So the Jets are in complete rebuild right now.
Yeah. The definition of.
Yeah. So all right, we'll go with them last. What do you think? They repeat their record, 5-11?
I actually think they're going to be worse than that. So
all right.
I said they were going to be 4-12, 1 game worse, just because 5-11 was, like I said, a really good year for them. I expect them to win 2 games. I don't think, and this is going to be almost laughable that I'm going to say this, I don't think they're going to have the success they had last year and win games that they probably shouldn't have, even if Sam Darnold plays right away. It's just going to be hard for him to transition with Robbie Anderson as his number 1 receiver, if he still is number 1 receiver.
I don't think that they're going to win right away. He's going to play.
I doubt it.
Barely anything this year, outside of maybe some garbage time snaps.
Right.
All right, so 4-12 for the Jets. If that's the case, I'm going 5-11 for the Dolphins.
That's exactly right for the Dolphins.
All right.
Yeah.
They added Josh Sitton, who is actually a pretty good guard. They stole fucking Danny Amendola from us.
Yep.
And Albert Wilson from the Chiefs, a wide receiver. They added Robert Quinn, who maybe a couple years ago would have been a really good signing.
Right.
Now, not as much. Daniel Kilgore at center. Frank Gore, another guy who maybe some years ago would have been a really good signing. Now, a very old running back. And Akeem Spence, who is a young-ish defensive tackle. They had a good draft.
Yep.
It seems like they drafted a bunch of guys to try and beat the Pats,
right,
and stop what the Pats do. They took Minkah Fitzpatrick, a guy who plays safety as well as slot corner, so that's designed to stop the Pats. They took Jerome Baker, a linebacker who's really good at coverage over the middle of the field, another guy that is designed to try and beat the Pats. And they drafted Mike Gesicki. These are just their key draft picks. The tight end from Penn State.
Yes.
Big athletic tight end who can work over the middle of the field. Should be a good target, and there should be plenty of targets to go around considering they lost Jarvis Landry, their key target guy. He is a Brown. They lost Ndamukong Suh. They lost Mike Pouncey. They lost their kicker, Cody Parkey. A guard, Jermon Bushrod. Julius Thomas at tight end, and Lawrence Timmons at linebacker. There's some pretty big losses there.
They definitely lost way more than they gained.
Yeah. Josh Sitton, that's a name that's begging you to say shittin. Is a pretty good guard, but they lost their guard, so I mean it's kind of like a net, they scrub out.
Right. So
they lost their starting center, Pouncey. They lost their best defensive. Well, maybe not their. Cameron Wake is pretty good. Is he on that team?
Is he still on that team?
Yes, I think so.
I'm not sure.
They lost one of their best defensive linemen, and Ndamukong Suh is gone. One of the best defensive linemen in the league, and Lawrence Timmons was a pretty good linebacker. I don't know if he's any good anymore, and they have Ryan Tannehill coming back off of a pretty big injury, and Ryan Tannehill was never that good to begin with. So a lot of overhaul in the Dolphins locker room.
I mean, the way I look at it is Tannehill is never, if he's at quarterback, that team's not going to be successful. They're just not. And the loss of Jarvis Landry, like, I understand you got Danny Amendola, but I have a really strange feeling that the Amendola that we're going to see is far different than the one that we saw in New England.
Well, it's much different having Ryan Tannehill throw to you as opposed to Tom Brady.
Right. I mean, night and day.
Ryan Tannehill that hasn't played football in a year too, so.
Right. So, they're not, and what's even worse is they scored less than 18 points a game, so they were worse than the Jets offensively last year.
And their defense got worse. And
they were 29th in the...
So
I mean, they're going to be bad.
Yeah, they definitely didn't get better.
So, I mean, that proves, like, those two teams are...
What did they go last year?
6-10, did they? 6-10.
Yeah, so 5-11. Want to know what's crazy?
What's up?
Moving on to the Bills, they might go 6-10.
I mean, I don't think they're going to go 9-7.
I don't think they're going to be like. And I'm thinking about it now. Their quarterback position, the most important position on the field, is really up in the air. If Josh Allen hits, I could see them going like 7-9, 8-8. But if Josh Allen is not good, I mean, this team has the potential to be the worst team in the division. They're not great.
Sure. I mean, I think the Bills Dolphins, and Jets are
the same team. They're all the same team.
They're fighting for not being in last. They're not playing for first place this year. They're just not.
Yeah, you're right. Way. They're not.
There's no way. I mean, like you said, if Josh Allen hits, then 500 is probably the top of their stock this year. But if he completes 52% of his balls, playing in a much faster league, and I mean much faster because he wasn't even like an SEC quarterback or ACC quarterback. So dudes,
and he struggled, and he struggled against big time competition,
right?
And now he's in the NFL. So, I mean, imagine Josh Allen stepping on the field and Bill Belichick's coaching that defense. That's not going to be great for Josh Allen to go against Bill Belichick's defense.
Right. It's going to be like who was the kid they threw in that Peterman when he came in?
Oh, the 5 interceptions.
I mean, that could be.
What helps them though, and I just noticed this. I forgot that they did this. Is they signed Brian Daboll as their offensive coordinator, who comes from Belichick's coaching tree.
Right.
So, maybe he'll help Josh Allen not throw 5 interceptions. Maybe it'll only be like 2 or 3.
Right. Still not going to win you many games.
So they added A.J. McCarron, who I think might instantly lose his job. Like, start of the season, might already lost his job.
Right.
Because it was almost like the Bills didn't even want him. Like, he was signed so late in the process. They signed Chris Ivory, who won't matter because the star there is still LaShawn McCoy. Jeremy Curley, a receiver, has bounced around a while. A center in Russell Bodine. A right tackle and Marshall Newhouse. Trent Murphy, defensive end. They got Star Lotulelei, who could be interesting next to Kyle Williams on that defensive line. And they grabbed Vontae Davis, who, if he's healthy, is a very good corner.
Yeah.
They had a really good draft, in my opinion. Not because of Josh Allen, but because they got Tremaine Edmonds way later in the draft.
Yeah,
way later in the first round.
He's going to replace Preston Brown.
Yeah, and he'll be good. He's a good young linebacker. And they also got Harrison Phillips, defensive tackle from Stanford.
That sounds right.
And he's a good, mainly a run-stopping guy, but he's a mean, strong, big, mean motherfucker at defensive tackle.
Right.
They lost pretty much their entire offensive line, anyone who is good there.
Yep.
So that could be a problem. They also lost Tyrod Taylor, Jordan Matthews. They might have the worst receiving core in the NFL.
Yeah, if it's not, it's bottom 3.
Yeah, definitely probably bottom 2.
And
like who would be what?
They have the oldest roster in the NFL.
Yeah, that's even with Tremaine Edmonds is 19 years old,
right? And
he didn't bring them down enough to not have the oldest roster,
right?
So
I mean, and LaShawn McCoy, like he's 29. I mean, for a running back, that's getting up there, and
yeah,
he's got a lot of miles on him.
Yeah, I don't know how much longer.
Line, well, not no offensive line, but a new offensive line is going to be rough.
A worse offensive line. Yeah, a worse offensive line. Yeah, I honestly, we'll have the Jets at 4-12, the Dolphins at 5-11, and I honestly think that the Bills' best case scenario is probably like 7-9, 8-8, but I honestly see them more around 6-10.
Yeah, I have them at 7-9. Just, I don't have any confidence in those 3 teams in the AFC East.
Think about this. Moving on to the Pats, there's a good chance that the Pats double the wins of the next closest team in their own division.
Right.
which is insane.
Yeah, like when I was going over like some of the notes for this, I put legitimately if best case scenario for every single one of the teams in the AFC East minus the Patriots. If the Patriots win 10 games, they probably could rest Brady week 17 and win the division. Like,
yeah, the Pats. I think the Pats might lock the division up with like their 8th win of the season.
Yeah. It's
going to be extremely like. The Pats have always kind of gotten shit because the AFC East has been bad, but it's going to be very, very noticeable this year, like how bad the AFC East is.
Yeah, and the Patriots have a tough schedule.
Well, yeah, it's not great.
So, I mean, this is a good year to have a tough schedule because if you lose a couple you're not supposed to, or lose a couple late, you're playing a team or a division where there's a good chance the 3 teams you're vying for first place are not going to be 500.
So, key additions, they added Trent Brown, the tackle from San Francisco, who knows where he's going to play right now, but they don't have a tackle, so I think they're kind of doing the whole, like, just throw everything against the wall and see what sticks for their offensive line.
Right.
They added Jason McCourty, which is a huge signing. I like it a lot. I think we'll see their secondary very much improved from the shellacking they took in the Super Bowl last year. Danny Shelton is kind of gone underrated, but Danny Shelton's a good signing. It's going to be very, very hard to rush up the middle on the Patriots this year.
Right, which is good.
Adrian Claiborne was kind of their big splash free agency signing. This dude had 5 sacks in one game. Granted, it was against one of the worst offensive tackles I've ever seen in the NFL. But they could use the pass rushing help, even if the guy isn't as good as 5 sacks in a game. Good.
It still counts.
They added Jeremy Hill, who might not even see the starting opening day roster. Jordan Matthews. Their wide receiving core is so deep at this point. I don't know who's going to play, who's going to make the team, and who's not. My dogs are going to freak out in a little bit, but we'll continue. And they also, this says key additions to Adrian Waddle. He was always on the team. They just signed him back.
Okay.
Key draft picks, they took Isaiah Wynn and Sony Michel in the first round, and who I think will be their starting slot receiver, and Duke Dawson in the second round?
Was it the second?
It's the second or the third. Right. Key losses, obviously they lost Nate Solder, they lost Danny Amendola as we went over. With the Dolphins, they lost Brandon Cooks. He got traded to the Rams for an extra first-round pick. They lost Dion Lewis to the Titans. They lost Martellus Bennett to retirement. Malcolm Butler is also on the Titans, and James Harrison, who I really wanted them to re-sign, also retired. And they lost Matt Patricia as the defensive coordinator and promoted Brian Flores, their linebackers coach.
How do you like that? The promotion of Flores.
He's actually not technically promoted. He is the defensive play caller, but not the defensive coordinator.
Okay.
So, I think it's just like a trial run.
See what happens.
And then he'll probably be promoted to defensive coordinator next year, is my guess.
Okay.
But Belichick will probably take a year, oversee his defensive play calling, and then make him the defensive coordinator. I think he did the same thing with Patricia.
He's kind of known for that, where he takes guys from within, gives them their shot, kind of oversees them for a year or at least a little bit, and then kind of gives them the reins. Teaches them and then gives them the reins. He's been known for doing that.
Yeah, so what do you think Pat's record? This is like the most universal Patriots record for every season is 12-4. That's my prediction. It's 12-4.
Yeah. So, some of the losses were. I mean, I'm indifferent. Obviously, Brandon Cooks for a year. I'm like, man, it would be cool to have him back. But at the same time, I was like, really didn't affect me too much. Like Edelman's back. Gronk is gonna be back. Brady's gonna be back after the media was all over him, hounding him that maybe he might retire or all those issues in the Patriots. When it's all said and done, Patriots are gonna win the AFC East, and it might only take, like I said, 10 wins. I think they're gonna win 11, and it's just gonna come down to maybe they rest. Week 17, or they lose a game they're not supposed to, but they're going to wrap up the division pretty easily.
So the Patriots play the Texans.
Right.
I think on the road versus the Jags to start off the season. So they play home. I think this means home. Yeah. They play home versus the Texans, and then on the road versus the Jags. Then they play on the road versus the Lions. Home against the Dolphins, home against the Colts, home against the Chiefs. They probably beat the Texans. It'll be let's say they lose to the Jags just for shits and gigs. I think they probably beat the Jags, but let's say they lose to the Jaguars on the road, second game of the year. They beat the Lions, they beat the Dolphins, they beat the Colts, even if Andrew Luck is there. They beat the Chiefs. They beat the Bears. They beat the Bills. They play the Packers. Let's say they lose to the Packers. So that's 2 losses. They play the Titans, which I think is still a win, even though the Titans are better. Mm-hmm. They beat the Jets. They play the Vikings at home. That's a tough game.
That's real tough.
Let's say they lose to the Vikings. That's 3 losses. They play the Dolphins. They play the Steelers in Pittsburgh. And they play the Bills and the Jets again. So
they probably could win.
Let's say they lose to the Steelers too. That would put them at 12-4. They usually drop one division game that they should win.
Right.
So let's say they drop a division game. That the worst possible scenario I see for the Pats, barring like extreme injury to Tom Brady or something like that, is 11-5.
Right. Yeah. And that's like the worst I could see. Right, and I had him pegged at 11 wins simply because I did worst case scenario for them and best case scenario for the other teams.
That was literally having them drop a game to every competitive team they play on the schedule, which they probably won't do.
No. So, I mean, opening up the season, they have 2 tough games, but I'm more confident in the Patriots being ready than those other 2 teams. Like being game ready week 1 and week 2.
They have 2 tough games to start the season, and then they literally rattle off 6 games that are like almost guaranteed wins to me.
Right. Like if they come out, play well week 1 and week 2, I mean they could be 8-0 and be working towards the focusing
8-0
because they already wrapped
8-0. They would literally be 8-0 and hosting the Packers.
Right.
In Foxborough. That'd be a crazy scenario. That'd be a very watched game if Aaron Rodgers is healthy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Aaron Rodgers coming to Foxborough to play the 8-0 New England Patriots.
That'd be huge.
I could see that storyline already.
Yeah.
Luckily, they get to play the Packers at home and the Vikings at home. So,
I mean,
that's good.
Steelers on the road.
And Jags on the road.
They've done well against the Steelers, though.
Yeah.
They have the Steelers.
Those are the
so
Steelers on the road and Jags on the road isn't great, but at least they get Vikings and Packers at home.
Right.
That's definitely helpful.
Of those 4 games, if we're going to split home and road, the 2 that I want on the road, we have on the road. So,
yeah, I would much rather play Steelers Jags on the road than Vikings Packers.
Right. So I mean,
because how big of a home field advantage is playing the Jags in Jacksonville?
Right. Right. Not much.
I mean, playing the Steelers in Pittsburgh is with the terrible towels and all that.
It's like when the Red
nonsense.
Sox play the Rays in Tampa Bay.
Yeah, no one cares about Florida teams.
Right. It's like, I think last night the attendance was 10,000 and it was like 6,000 Red Sox fans. So, I mean, it was ridiculous. So,
but yeah, so that's the AFC East wrap up, and the Pats are just going to run away with the division again.
They should. I mean,
I think it's very safe to say that it won't even be close.
They won by what, 4 games last year?
They could literally double the next closest team's winning record.
Yeah. Yeah, they could win by... If they don't win by 5 games, I'll be disappointed. Not that it matters.
Yeah, this is a very bad AFC East in a division that hasn't been great. This is one of the worst years I can remember. Yeah, this is one of the worst years I can remember. So they should absolutely dominate this division, and really the only games they're at risk of losing will be out of division games. But they're usually good for dropping one.
Right, and it'll be
one random game.
Doesn't matter.
One random game to like Miami that they shouldn't lose, but they will.
Right. It'll be stupid. It won't even matter at that point. But yeah, Patriots easily win the division. The Jets, Bills, and Dolphins probably gonna have good draft picks next year anyway, so that's good for them.
Yeah, they just all happen to be rebuilding at the same time.
Yeah.
I just don't think anyone's told the Dolphins that they're supposed to be rebuilding yet.
Yeah, they're just like, no, we're good.
Yeah, we got Tannehill. He played wide receiver before he was a quarterback, so.
So, next week, what are we gonna do? We want to do the AFC North. We'll do that division.
Yeah.
All right.
So we can talk about the Browns.
Yeah, I'm just gonna talk about the Browns every episode.
Yeah, even when we do like the NFC West, we'll talk about the Browns still.
And the Browns are gonna go 6-10.
How many teams in the NFC West do the Browns have a better record than?
Yeah, we'll do that. We'll make our own prop bets for the Browns.
Yeah.
So, I think that's all we got, man. I think we wrapped up the AFC East. There wasn't a ton of news, but we went through that. Anything else you got on your mind before we go?
Nope. I just I hope this works.
Yeah. If not, I'm gonna break my computer, I think. So
hopefully you guys are listening to this down in distance currently, and if you're not, I am somewhere contemplating jumping.
All right, so next week we will do the AFC North. Obviously, we'll bring you any news that we have. That's all I got for you guys. Hopefully, I don't have to do the intro again, and I can say that we made it to episode 2.
Yeah, welcome to Down in Distance, episode 2.
That'll be nice. It's got a nice rhythm.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Have a good rest of the week. Have a good weekend. Have a good Memorial Day. Until next time, guys. Take care.
Adios.